really interested to talk to you about what's happened since you were recorded 5 years or so ago. So, I mean, I understand you were circumcised at 18.
Yes.
How did that come about?
I grew up in a cutting culture. Nothing. They shame intact men. First of all the information and facts are hidden, secret about the anatomy of the male prepuce. So I didn't even know my own anatomy of my own body. So, because even in going in school, even in sex ed, or they said they even said in class, most everyone here is circumcised. They never went into definition about the anatomy of the male prepuce or the foreskin. So and I had a Jewish doctor at the time, and before I was going to college, and he did recommend. He said you will have less you'll get it done with and won't have to do it when you're older, because you won't have problems when you're older. And I didn't think even to look into it because I didn't have the computer, and even my parents, which are Greek, they didn't really know. They just knew it was an American thing, and didn't really know the facts and the horrific information about it, because we're lied to daily on this information and facts. We're not told the correct truth. Even in Europe, it's not illegal. It's not done, but it's not illegal. So I just went along with it. I just didn't even, Then afterwards, I went into denial first, because I knew something was wrong, of course.
Initially, did you have extra sensitivity there? Was it discomfort?
Well, the whole thing is, I can still get but the filling is completely different. It's a whole different type of filling.
Yeah.
It's connected with the brain. Once that goes, it's gone.
Yeah.
You can still. It's not impotency, because that's why a lot of circumcised men go into denial.
Yeah.
And say they're fine, but it's a completely different. It's like tasting food.
Yeah.
You could taste the details, the pleasures of it.
Yeah.
That's like with the foreskin and male prepuce, you have so much more pleasure.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, oh, well, you must have a botched. That's a lie too.
Yeah.
And the whole botched, that's why I hate using the word, I think the media uses that to their advantage, because really all circumcisions are botched.
Yeah.
It's mutilation. You remove 20,000 specialized nerves and erogenous tissue.
Yeah.
So that whole thing is a bunch of they use that to manipulate people and lie to people. So all circumcisions are botched. It was just a regular circumcision. I can still get erect, but I can't feel that pleasure, the details of the refined pleasure.
Yeah.
And the filling, that you can when you have the full male prepuce.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all this is very common sense if you think, but the media purposely wants to make it people dumbed down and hard to think about, because it makes sense. You're mutilating the hood, the protective covering. The glands is an internal organ.
Yeah.
And then when you circumcise it, you forcefully make it externalized.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to be like that. The glands is only supposed to show when you're erect.
Yeah.
And then it covers up again.
Mm.
It's like, but it's I have restored, but that still is not. That does not give you back the specialized nerves and recovery. That's why I call it a glands recovering, because that's more appropriate, I think, because they will use that term. They say, oh, they can get it back when they're older if they want to. You can never get that back.
Yeah.
And that's even common sense if people are intelligent and they think about it, because once you mutilate the original male prepuce, all those, you can't get that back. You can recover with stretching techniques. You can recover the glands or the head of the penis, but you can't get that fine sensory filling and pleasure back.
Yeah.
But it does. It makes it better, because you recover the head, which is an internal organ.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I read a report from a guy once who is the same as you, was intact, then cut, then restored himself. He said that he reckoned that original sex was 10 out of 10, say. When he got circumcised, it dropped to 3 out of 10. but he managed to restore himself to 7. He reckoned.
I think they exaggerate, because people who want to do this, they are shamed. Because I got shamed many of years. They said, "Well, you chose to." I didn't know. When you grow up, like somebody says, it's like growing up in a culture with everybody has one arm, and you have two hands or 2 arms, but you're made to look like the freak.
Yeah.
So you want to be like them and have one arm, and a lot of guys who are cut as adults exaggerate the glands recovering or foreskin restoration, and I know this.
Yeah.
Because it's still nothing like. Yeah, it does help. I mean, that's because, like I said, the head of the penis is an internal organ.
Yeah.
So covering that up helps alone.
Sure.
Because it's not supposed to be externalized
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah.
But they exaggerate because I think that they want to justify themselves that it wasn't that bad of a decision, because I still restored.
Yeah.
And I got something back, but
Yeah.
you can't get that pleasure,
No.
the fine sensory pleasure details back.
Yeah.
And a lot of even guys cut as an adult have trouble
Right.
admitting that fact.
Yeah, yeah. How do you reconcile the fact that a lot of guys cut as adults say, "I'm fine, sex is good."
Well,
yeah,
the denial. So that denial, big denial.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's why. I mean, it's worse when you're cut as an adult and you say that. But that's the power of this ritual abuse. This is a trauma-based mind control ritual abuse, and I don't sugarcoat that fact. I mean, you're mutilating. It's a blood sacrifice. In the Talmud, you can kill up to, I think, 2 or 3 of the babies, and then after that, then it's you can't do it anymore. I mean, it's deeper than most people think or their mind can process.
Yeah.
But the guys cut it as adult that say, "Oh, they don't." I mean, and plus they're afraid to say they made a mistake, because then they get shamed.
Yes.
And they get that's another thing in this culture. If you complain about it, they say get over it.
Yeah.
Or if that's another thing. It's just you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right. Right.
So it's one of those things in this culture. They say, "Oh, we don't hear anybody complain about being circumcised."
Yeah.
But when you do complain,
Yeah.
then they say, "Oh, well, get over it."
Yeah, yeah.
Or you're different.
You're the only one. Nobody else does.
Yeah. So it's all mind.
You've got a problem. Yeah.
Yes, it's a very mind game, and
Right.
like I said, it's like a tribal mark, and the tribe doesn't want the secret to come out.
Yeah.
It's very, it's deep. It's very deep wound,
Yeah.
amputation.
Yeah. I understand you say this is 10 years now. We're in Washington D.C. here
Yes,
now.
this is my 10th.
The Genital Integrity Awareness Week, and this is your 10th year here now.
Yes,
So
my 10th year.
you're serious about this, aren't you?
Oh yes, and I've seen it all. I've seen every excuse. I've seen every. That's why I know this. I know the psychological aspect of this whole thing too.
Yeah.
The parents. If the guy admits that he was harmed, he has to admit his parents, turned him over to some stranger.
Yeah.
To damage him, and the parents don't want to admit they're wrong, so it's like a domino effect.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like and then that's why some guys don't, or they cut their parents off because they don't want to apologize or say they're wrong.
Yeah.
But even if they do, it's a deep aspect, because and it's not usually the parents' fault, because the medical community is lying to everybody.
Sure.
So the parents are just trusting these godlike figures. They look at them as godlike figures.
Yeah.
But and they don't want to admit that these doctors and physicians are lying to them
Right.
on a daily basis. That's the thing, and that's why even the CDC, which is a government, and they're
Agency.
and they and that's the thing, though. As the more we fight back, the more they are going to fight back.
Yeah.
This is not by accident. They plan. It's planned to a certain degree, and that's what a lot of people need to know. It's really planned out.
Yeah.
That's why they're all the lies and misinformation in the media and the TV. The media is a total blackout with this. If they show it on TV, it's very brief and quick, and they don't even go into details.
Yeah.
Or a lot of times they joke about it.
Yeah.
It's a whole part of the brainwashing.
I recall reading some people referring to the fact that when they restored, they experienced a whole body orgasm.
Well, that can be true too, maybe,
Yeah.
because you do get filling back, and maybe, what they were used to.
Yeah.
Especially if they were cut as babies.
Yeah.
You can get some filling back, like I said,
Right.
but it's still not the same.
No.
That's what people,
Yeah.
and that's what I particularly.
So you know what the whole body orgasm
Yes.
is like. You must
Yes.
have been having been intact.
Intact, yes.
And now you've restored? Do you get something like that at all? Or
Not every, it's weird. Certain days I did.
Yeah.
That's the complexity of it.
yeah,
There were some days where it was very sensitive,
yeah,
but not every day is like that. That's the weird part about it.
Yeah.
The glands recovering.
right,
I think it's trying to mimic,
yeah,
because your body knows when it's damaged.
yeah,
So the whole glands recovering is trying to mimic what it's lost or
Yeah.
damaged.
yeah,
But I did have days where it felt, but it's still not like the original male prepuce. of
right,
course.
right, yeah,
But I did have where it felt great.
yeah, yeah,
But that's what I mean. They don't know the degree of differences.
yes,
And
yeah,
to a certain point, that can harm the movement, because a lot of people say, "Oh, you can get that back." You can't get that back.
right, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
when parents say that parents use that as an excuse,
yeah, sure.
and that's why we have to be careful with the whole glands recovering.
How about
And I don't like to use foreskin restoration, because that
yeah,
that's saying you can restore what you had, but you can't restore that.
yeah. About masturbation, I mean, there must be a big difference. I always mystified
yes.
when people get circumcised. I think if there's a lot less skin to work with there,
Well,
it must make a big difference to
Oh,
masturbation.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah,
Well, we all know that's why it started in the U.S.
yeah,
Kellogg, in the anti-sex Victorian era,
Yeah.
they did it to punish boys
yeah,
and to decrease male sexual feeling as much as possible.
yeah,
So it was, yes, completely. You can still masturbate,
yeah,
but the point is you don't have that. The erogenous tissue.
Yeah.
You don't have that. That feeling anymore.
Right.
Because
yeah.
it's just not the same.
Yeah. So I mean, this must have massively hit your sex drive then. I mean.
Oh
it's-
yes.
Yeah.
Psychologically,
Yeah.
it messes you up.
Yeah.
That's why I think a lot of people do go into denial, because they don't want to make it. Because it takes some years to coming to realization that you live in a psychotic culture
Yeah. Yeah.
that just abuses males.
Yeah.
And once it attacks, it's a war basically.
Yeah.
It's a war against males and their sexual. This should be illegal.
Yeah.
This shouldn't be even an option.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of males, I think, do go into denial. You
So,
don't-
do you think that what intrigues me? One thing that intrigues me is that how so many men who are their sex lives are. I'm thinking now mostly of all exclusively of guys circumcised as infants who would never know any different,
Yeah.
and yet they're with intact wives or partners, and who are getting much more of a kick out of sex than
Yeah.
they are. And does this not? I wonder how this doesn't register, or maybe it does.
I just call it a psychosexual mental disorder
Yeah.
in society.
Yeah.
It really is. You can't really, explain it. It's very deep, and but I think some wives do know there's something wrong, but they don't want to admit it themselves, because then they would have to insult the partner,
Yeah.
or make them admit. That's a whole thing too. They would have to, try to heal their husband
Yeah.
from the trauma they went to.
Yeah.
And if they're not ready, the wife isn't going to be ready,
Yeah.
because the wife is just going along with it.
Yeah.
And there's reports that a lot of wives do get damaged because it's too rough, or they get
Yeah.
if you don't have the male that does not have the male prepuce,
Mm.
it damages
Yeah.
the wife too. But maybe they're just going along with it because it's a shame. They don't want to shame their partner too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of deep stuff that you can get into about this subject.
Yeah.
That
Wow.
you know, and for them to do it to their son, it justifies that they're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of admitting they're damaged.
Yeah.
So you know that whole aspect of it is pretty deep psychologically.
So this
and I recognize that, especially since I came here for 10 years. I've seen all the different mindsets.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this must have had a massive impact on your own life and your own.
Oh yes. Oh yeah, because it's like you live in a twilight zone.
Yeah.
And then you can't believe that this is allowed, and that I was tricked and lied to, and that I was a victim, of the conformity of society too.
Yeah.
Because I was, I grew up in Pennsylvania. I didn't realize how lucky I was.
Yeah.
I was made to look like like my friend said. It's like when you grow up in a society, everybody has one arm.
Yeah.
And you're made to look like the freak if you have two arms.
Yeah.
So it's very deep, and but it's been a healing too, to do this and to educate and to and to realize even I'm saving people. I saved a lot of people too from this, because a lot of guys even said they were thinking about getting circumcised as an adult because maybe their girlfriend thought it was better. But I said I explained to them the facts and information, and they said, "Oh, good. I'm so glad you saved me." And so that that there is healing for me too, because I'm saving other people. It's just not for me.
So you attend quite a few demos, I think, don't you?
Yes. I mean, something that life-changing, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why they do it to babies, because they expect these babies to grow up and not learn about what was done to them. It's so sneaky.
Yeah.
The original male prepuce gives a feeling so euphoric and so pleasurable that glands recovering can never do. And I would never tell people to not do glands recovering, because the glands recovering does help the filling back, that you're making it an internal organ again. But I notice some they do exaggerate it, because I think they just want to justify it themselves. But you can't get those specialized nerves and erogenous tissue back, because that euphoria will never be there again. And the glands recovering, whatever you stretch, can never take place of the original male prepuce or foreskin. And I think that needs to be actually, people need to hear this, because, like I said, parents do use that as an excuse. They say they can get it back, but you can never get that back. And that's what we need to know, because, that I think sometimes we don't make that clear to people. You can never get that back once that's mutilated. That euphoric filling, the euphoria of the original male prepuce and foreskin is gone forever once it's mutilated. And that's, that's the fact. Even I know cut guys who got cut as an adult, they go into denial too, and say, "Oh yeah, like it's a 7 or no." They need to not exaggerate so much, because it can hurt the movement. It can, because people need to realize there's an agenda behind circumcision.
Yeah.
And that's the babies who are getting mutilated. They hope they grow up, because they're not going to know what it's like to feel that euphoria during sex, and they hope they will never learn about it too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's deep.
I know there's the old common perception that cut guys can last much longer. That's a lot of the women. This is how women say, "Oh, that's great," because they can. Because I take longer to get there, so it's great when the cut guys have lost sensitivity, and so that's good. But by contrast, I've also read in the past that circumcision makes guys come quickly. The whole thing sounds confusing to me.
It's either.
Did you notice that affect yourself?
Yeah, because you don't have as much control. I mean, you either come fast, or you can wait and be, like I said, it's not that you don't become erect, but you don't have those fine touch sensory nerve endings to control, everything all at once. And so you can either come fast or you can stay erect and then come end state. But doesn't mean it's better. That's what people don't. There's so much lies and misinformation about it.
Yeah.
It's.
So do you notice that there's more sensation before you actually climax than when you have the whole penis,
yes.
as opposed to after?
Yeah, it's a total different feeling. That's what people have to understand. It's totally different. It's not the same feeling. I mean, you can't get that euphoric feeling once the male prepuce is gone.
Yeah.
And people who are intelligent, it's common sense. You remove 20,000 plus nerve endings in erogenous tissue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to affect the function.
Yeah.
I mean, you change the form, it's going to affect the function. But yeah, you can get erect and you could still climax and stuff. But the feeling, that feeling is never going to be there. And even with the glands recovering, it helps because the glands is an internal organ.
Yeah.
And once you stretch, you make it internal again.
Yeah.
And that helps the sensitivity and the pleasure. But the thing is, you cannot get those nerves that you had with the original, with what you were born with.
Yeah.
And that's why they do it to babies.